What's up, ballers? AJ from Hustle Paintball. Today, I'm going to be talking about the Violent Series triggers from Violent Series. They come in three different styles: the Deuce, the Scythe, and the Blade, as well as a handsome white in addition to the traditional black. They're made from a high-quality, lightweight Delrin with a rounded face for maximum comfort while shooting. One of the biggest questions that we get while talking about the Violent Series triggers is, what's the best trigger for me? How do I figure out what trigger I should use on my personal paintball marker? Now, these triggers are made primarily for speedball markers, for the airball field, and they are compatible with most of the major manufacturers, everything from Dye, Proto, DLX, Dangerous Power, GOG, Empire, MacDev, and Bob Long. Now, I'm going to introduce a good friend of mine, someone who you may be familiar with, Mr. Erik Cromer.
I've tried all three of these triggers for quite some time. And personally, I found the Scythe to be most enjoyable. I've got longer fingers, so when I'm shooting while reloading, and say if I'm playing semi or something like that, I can actually hold on to the grip frame and still walk the trigger, kind of like a claw, is what Russell calls the technique. It seemed to be the easiest to still maintain a lane while you're shooting, while being on semi, as opposed to the stock trigger. It just has more of a pronounced shape to it. The next one that I played with for quite some time was the Deuce. I heard some snake players saying that they like the Deuce a lot because it's really easy to find. So say if you're like, you know, you're in the snake and you're in the ball position, I guess is what it's called, I don't know. And you're posted up down the wire and you have your elbow down. It's really easy to, I got my gun here. It's really easy to, while you have your gun up like this, and say you have your elbow posted down, like I said earlier, it's really easy to find the trigger, even if you have like a lower grip like this. Because we all know that when you're laying down, sometimes you have to put your gun up really high in order to be able to shoot the corner or shoot your mirror or whatever, or stay down low while keeping your gun up high. The last one that I did was the Blade trigger, mainly because the Blade trigger, the stock Planet Eclipse trigger on my GSL, I wanted to have kind of the same feel on my Anomaly 3.5. So I threw this on there, and I kind of like it, but at the same time, it's just not the same. So if you're looking at getting a Blade trigger for your gun, you know, this is going to be the closest option rather than, you know, contacting somebody with a GSL or an SLS or whatever gun, whatever SL version that you can find, and then paying like $80 for a trigger, which doesn't make any sense. But the one thing that I do like about this trigger is that it's round compared to the Planet Eclipse trigger, the Blade trigger. This one is completely flat, and it's only got some round, I guess, cuts in it. On the very edge of it. The Violent Blade trigger, it's round all the way. The whole entire face is completely round. But it's all personal preference.
Erik Cromer, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Erik, for joining us today here in the studio. Everyone, let's hear a nice round of applause for Erik Cromer. Thank you for coming up and educating us about the Violent Series triggers. Now, of course, Erik said with his nice long fingers that the side trigger was absolutely ideal for him, and it's the one that he enjoyed the most. And naturally, the inverse is also applicable to the Blade trigger. If you have shorter fingers or feel like you are having trouble reaching the trigger, the Blade might actually be right up your alley. So there's options for all types of hand styles and shooting styles. Since Violent decided to make tons of different triggers for all kinds of markers, crossing most of the major manufacturers, we would love to show you how to install them on each one of those markers, but that would take a really long time. But for your viewing pleasure and instruction, we would like to show you how to install one of these triggers on a Planet Eclipse LV1. So here we have an LV1 grip frame. And since this video is about how to install a trigger and not how to strip down your LV1, we're just going to start with the actual grip frame. But of course, I'm sure you know to make sure that the eyes are free of the grip frame before you try and take it out. We don't want any sad pandas pinching their eye wires. That is always sad. But here we have the actual trigger mechanism itself. You'll notice that there are two screws right here and right here. Start by removing those. And then grabbing the trigger mechanism and just pulling it straight out. Notice here that there is a physical return switch right here. Just pull that off. It is magnetically held into place. Set that aside. And go to the back side of your trigger and see this set screw. Untighten that, or loosen as normal people would say. And grab that same Allen key and go to this pin and push it through until the other side. Grab that and set it aside. You'll need that later. As well as the magnetic return mechanism. Grab that and set that aside. You'll also need that later. So here's your old LV1 trigger. Grab your brand new Violent Series Deuce trigger. We chose white for this just because I think it would look good on this particular LV1. Pull that out of its packaging. Be sure to recycle. Go to this set screw that's right here and loosen that ever so slightly. Not all the way. Bear in mind these are very tiny screws. You don't want to lose them, so just keep your eye on them and you don't have to loosen them all the way. Grab the magnetic return frame and set that right on top of your Violent trigger. It should fit nice and snug into place and feel like it's not going to go anywhere too fast. And grab the original pin, stick that through. Make sure it's nice and flush. Hold it in place with both fingers and tighten down the set screw. Now you don't have to tighten this terribly hard. You don't have to get all She-Hulk on it. Just hand tight should do the trick. And make sure that it has some travel. Perfect. And grab the physical return mechanism and set it on top. It should magnetically set itself into place. There we go. And grab your grip frame again and sort of slide the trigger into the grip frame. And you'll notice that this little notch right here is going to go right inside this part of the grip frame. And what I like to do is actually grab the micro switch with a Allen key and move it out of the way so that the set screw on the trigger itself doesn't get in the way. It should fall right into place behind the micro switch. Now grab those same screws that you had earlier and screw this one into place. And don't tighten this too hard because you might want to adjust the positioning of the trigger once you have it in its frame. So just sort of set that in place. Grab the second one, put that back where it was as well, and bear in mind that this is all magnetic, so your screws might go all wonky. Just wrangle them up and get them into place. And set that one slightly as well. And now look at your trigger and see if it's rubbing up against the side wall of the trigger well. If it is, just go ahead and sort of hand adjust it into place and tighten down your screws. Once those are nice and tight, the trigger should be in place and you have a brand new Deuce Violent Series trigger in your LV1. There you have it. That's how to install a Violent Series trigger in a Planet Eclipse LV1. And if you would like to pick up one of the Violent Series triggers, or all three of the Violent Series triggers, or all six, I guess, since they come in two different colors, head to hustlepaintball.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube, and join the discussion about the Violent Series triggers on pbriot.com. I'll see you guys next time.